All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, if I may say so. It's kind of in between the morning and noon, so debatable. Welcome to the talk called Roadmap Discussion for Percona Server for MySQL. It's going to be delivered by the two of us. So Marco, go ahead, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I'm Marco Tusa, a tech lead for MySQL in Percona. This means that I participate in the definition of the technology decision for MySQL. It's a Percona definition of the how-to things. And I'm happy to have you here. And
yeah, my name is Bartek. I am a relatively new addition to the Percona family. And as you can guess, I am in a desperate need for answers, and I'm asking all the difficult questions as well, which actually leads me to a bit of a disclaimer or a warning that this roadmap session is going to be a little different as compared to your typical roadmap sessions. Again, a typical roadmap session is where a product manager, again, typically goes on stage, shows the plans and a timeline, commits to it with some typical footnote that it's never cast in stone, but it's typically a monologue. What I would like to suggest and try with you today is to change it a little bit and turn it into a dialogue, a discussion, where you tell me what you need, and I ask these difficult why questions. And of course, it's not just today, not just during this session. I want to extend this invitation for a dialogue to the future as well. How this session is going to look like. So we have 3 chapters for you today. The first one is focused a little bit on the history of how we got here, where we are today. Then the second chapter, I would like to propose certain thinking pattern around how we invest into databases within Percona, and in particular in MySQL. And then we'll take a look, using this kind of mental pattern, this framework, we're going to take a look at some of the things that we have on our radar. This third part is going to be the one which is a bit more interactive. So before we start, I want to make sure that everyone is awake. I actually have prepared Slido for this, but given that there's maybe like, 1.5 dozen of us in the room, let's just do this by raising hands. So the first question is, how many of you are using any form or shape of MySQL? Let's see, that's most of us, probably like 90%, 95%. Then
I'm surprised that someone that didn't raise their hand. I would like to know why you're using MySQL for it.
I got laid off 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm not using anything.
Okay.
Okay. How many of you are using the Percona MySQL? Okay.
Oh, come on.
Most of us are using. Lovely. How many of you are using XtraBackup or XtraDB Cluster from Percona? All right, like 15, 20%. Lovely. Toolkit? Oh, like half of us here, even more, 60%. Lovely, lovely. Percona Operator for MySQL. 2 people. Okay. 3 people. 2 of them from Percona.
Yeah.
3 from Percona. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And then how many of you are actually paying Percona customers? And by that I mean you either have a support contract with us or managed services, or you have a current, existing, ongoing, or recently completed professional services. 1, 2, 3 people. 4 people. Okay. Thank you so much.
And we have questions like, who's using Ghost? Like, Ghost?
Yeah.
Who's using Ghost?
Who's using Ghost?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Orchestrator.
Yeah.
Okay. 7 people.
Yeah.
Vitesse. Again. 7.
Leave my hand up.
Okay.
That's for my question.
All right. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you. This is exactly what I mean by interactive session. We all get to ask questions. We all get to participate. I mentioned that I have a Slido for this, so I'm just going to skip this slide. So the first chapter is the history, where we are, what are the drivers of building the Percona MySQL. You have seen this slide from Anne just an hour ago. This is a mission statement. We believe that an open world is a better world, and our mission is to enable the businesses to innovate freely without worrying too much about the databases. So that's our mission. Now, how it all started from the MySQL perspective. So Percona was founded in 2006. The fork for MySQL, or the Percona MySQL, appeared 2 years later. And then we have gradually improved this, the offer, the software offer around MySQL. So it all started with the backup solution, the toolkit, XtraDB Cluster for replication. Then we added the monitoring and management on top of that, together with the operator, and packaged it all in a distribution. Year 2023 is going to be a very interesting milestone on that path with the DBAS that you have heard about as well. Separate announcements are going to be delivered, and more information is going to be provided shortly about that as well. So please don't forget to join tomorrow's keynote, where Vadim is going to talk a little bit more about that.
All by itself?
Sorry?
Is going to do with the keynotes all by itself, or someone or you guys are going to?
No, during the keynote, just all by himself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the first.
Right, so how does this mission statement translate to MySQL in particular? The first paragraph here is just a natural derivative of the mission statement of Percona. We want MySQL distribution to be the best open source distribution in the world, which, combined with Percona services and support, enables the business innovation, enables the growth for companies of all sizes. Now, in practice, you can expand this statement a little bit further. So our goal is to, we want to achieve this through providing out-of-the-box enterprise-grade features that are focused primarily on security, performance, and availability. But they also address all the surrounding needs of day 0, day 1, and day 2 operations. And this is all provided through a distribution which is applicable to all the modern environments, cloud and on-premises, and without a vendor locking. So that's kind of what motivates us, what puts, drives us forward with the investment in MySQL. How does the last 18 months look like? Your first impression, I'm sure, seeing this slide is, oh my God, there's a lot of it, it's difficult to read. So my point here is not to explain every single thing on this map here. There are actually 3 takeaways, 2 positive and 1 a challenge or an opportunity for us. So the first thing is that, yes, we are delivering constantly to MySQL. We are releasing the components of MySQL distribution in a regular fashion in sync with upstream, which is Oracle MySQL Community Edition. But we are not just repackaging this, of course. On top of each of the releases, we put a ton of features addressing the demands, specifically focusing on those areas of scalability, performance, and availability, but not only those. So it not only is released in the same cadence, but also improved all the time. So it's actually gradually being improved all the time. What is not so great about this map is that it looks a little bit like this chocolate box. It's difficult to track the themes. And this is actually what I would like really to propose. And this is a segue to this next chapter of this presentation, which is how do we want to think about MySQL and how do we want to communicate our investments moving forward? How do we think about MySQL? So if you look at the core questions related to any database engines, there are 3 questions or 3 types of functionalities that are the most important. It needs to be secure, it needs to be fast, and it needs to be available. So this is the core. This is what is the most important part of every database. But as we have also heard during the keynote, sure, just please use microphone. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a question. Do you agree or do you think there should be something else?
Observability.
Okay, go back.
Actually, this is
okay.
it is on this slide. It is on this slide to some extent.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by this slide?
Let me get to this. You're yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ahead.
It's not,
You're ahead.
Yeah, your head is not there as a box, but is there as a concept, right? Anything else that you use, like right now, before we go ahead, you see that is missing from your point of view? At the core. No, okay. So
At the core. Okay, so the core is fine. Then around the core, we have what I call the outer layers. So these boxes, these features or these functionalities deliver to the needs that are around basically the life cycle of the database engine. And I'm going to go through each of these in a second, explaining exactly what it means. Observability is part of that as well. Now, let's take a look at each of these boxes, as I said, one by one. So first is security. It's a relatively straightforward component of the core. It answers the question, is my data safe? Is my data secure? Is it protected under, are there mechanisms in place that prevent some unauthorized access? But it also answers the question, is the whole system compliant with the regulations, compliant with the rules that might exist or might not exist with a given environment, which is a target environment for the engine. So that is security, pretty straightforward. Performance, again, pretty straightforward. Are my queries going to be executed fast? But also, is the system created in such a way that it will grow with me? Is the scalability built into this? Not just in terms of growing, but also in terms of shrinking and sizing it down if the need for a larger capacity is reduced, so that I do not pay excessive cost for maintaining this. Third box, again, relatively straightforward, is availability. Answers the question, what will happen in case of any dramatic situations, in case of critical failures. And if you look at it from the perspective of the business application, of course, the question is kind of slightly different. How long will it take to recover? And if my business application is going to impact it by that, also, do I have to implement anything with my business application so that it doesn't get impacted seriously through any types of failures? So these are the core elements. Now, let's see what is around it. What are the outer layers here? Starting from the bottom is the platform applicability. Answers the simple question, what do I need to provide in terms of the hardware and software for this particular database to run? And also what maintenance operations are required on top of this, platform so that it continues to be applicable. Day one and day zero operations, how do I get to having this database deployed? Again, we are thinking here in terms of time to value, what operations related to the deployment and activations are required. What I kind of smuggled here a little bit is the maintenance of the engine as well, which is typically mentioned within the day two operations, but it will become a little bit clearer why when I show a few next slides. From the top, we see the access and configurability, which answers the question, how do I actually get to my data? How do I configure the data structures? How do I store and retrieve the data that I have? On the right-hand side, we have what you mentioned, sir, before, which is control, sometimes called monitoring and management, which provides me information whether everything works fine or not. And if I want to perform certain actions, based on this information allows me to do these actions. And finally, on the right-hand side, we have automation, which answers the question, how do I perform any of these prior operations without the tedious need to click 17 times or run command line calls too much. So why have I packaged this in such a structure? The reason is that depending on who you are within the organization, you are looking at databases through a slightly different perspective or through a slightly different glass. If you are an application developer, you still want to have security, performance, and availability, but you're looking at it from the perspective of the consumer. So how do I access the data? How do I store it? How do I configure this? You may not be necessarily very much interested in the control, in the deployment, and in the life cycle of that. That is a different perspective if you look at it from, say, an infrastructure admin who is responsible for setting up the environment and making sure that it is applicable for the engine. Slightly different perspective for a DBA, slightly different perspective for the DevOps. Each of these functions are still focused on the core. So they still look at the performance, availability, and security, but they are looking at it through a slightly different perspective. And that's why all of these blocks need to be there in order for us to be able to say that, yes, we are addressing the needs of the company. We are making sure that it actually works not just in its core, but also through the ease of use and applicability. A side note here is that if you look at it through the lens of as a service or cloud deployments in particular, you tend to focus mostly on the application developer. So you kind of obscure everything that is behind the scenes, which makes it very convenient, very easy to start with, but it doesn't necessarily promise that every of the other components is performing to its peak capability and that it's cost effective necessarily. So why am I mentioning this? At Percona, we want to make sure that we invest in all of these areas, that the final product is as convenient to use as possible for each of these roles, as applicable, as easy to deploy, as easy to maintain, while providing these core values of security, performance, and availability. Any comments on this? Okay, cool. A few of the other principles that we have in play that help us decide whether to invest into something or not. Just let me go through this really quickly. They should be actually absolutely clear for everyone. First is that everything we build is open source, which means we encourage contributions. We make the code available for any type of applications or modifications that you might want to build on top. The second thing is that we want to retain as much compatibility with the upstream as possible, to the extent that we consider MySQL from Percona as a drop-in replacement for the community edition. If you want to go with Percona, you should be just literally replacement of the binaries and you're done. The third thing is that, I mentioned this earlier as well, this is all provided as a single package, as a single distribution, and through that it is applicable to the companies of all sizes and types. And finally, that was mentioned already as well, there is no vendor lock-in with this. So if at any point in time you decide to go back to the community version or just stop paying Percona for the support and services, the software remains to be operational. Okay, now let's go to the interesting part and interactive part, which is what do we have on our radars at the moment? What are we looking at? This is where I would really like us to be, interactive, asking questions. I'll do my best to answer them together with Marco. Yes. We'll use the same framework or the same boxes so that it's a bit easier to discuss. So the first box is security. And the first thing that we want to do, which is actually very important in terms of the applicability to different environments and organizations, is we want to make sure that we have all the checkboxes identified and then ticked when it comes to highly regulated markets. We are speaking about federal, medical, educational, financial. It comes with all these questions about compliancy. I don't have specific plans at the moment. This is a work that needs to happen before we commit to any deliverables. But this is something that is going to happen within the next quarter. So please expect announcements and just investments in this area. This is a very important topic.
So do you mean you're going to have a separate release for compliant codes?
Potentially, yes, potentially. That's one of the paths that we are exploring. Did everyone hear the question, by the way? Yep. No? So the question was, are we going to have different binaries, different packages for different markets potentially? And the answer was that yes, that is one of the options that we're considering. Mm-hmm.
So that would mean features are in some binaries that are not.
That we would really prefer to avoid, to be honest. But there might be that the packages are provided with certain compliancy standards that are different between the different target environments. Like signatures or certifications. Yeah.
Same software, but
Yeah. That would be the ideal solution. But as I said, it's a bit early to say at the moment exactly how this is going to look like because there is a do work that needs to happen, the preparation work.
maybe defaults would be different in one or the other.
That could be the case as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same software, but different defaults.
Yep. There was another question.
Are you planning to provide any ARM-based firewall?
I have a slide for that. Just hold on. It's going to be under platform applicability. You see, this framework works. Another topic related to the security is like a bit more focused set of features here. We are going to improve our audit plugin for MySQL. We want to bring it closer to being on par with the enterprise version. And also there was a recent discussion around the on-the-fly reconfigurability of the settings, especially in cases where there are longer sessions and you do not want to restart the access to the database.
I have one question
Any
about enterprise here. Who is using MySQL Enterprise? Okay, fantastic. So any of you is using the firewall feature inside MySQL Enterprise?
Remind us of what is that feature.
The firewall feature that allow, well, it actually prevent the execution of whatever SQL, whatever query from the client, right? So you stop at the border, let's say. Nobody? Actually? Okay. Someone use ProxySQL firewalling feature? Nobody.
That's on our radar. Well, we're thinking about it.
Okay.
So, I'm not using these features, but I'm interested in a situation where a database is overloaded, fast fail some queries, like some sort of QoS load shedding. So it's not exactly firewalling for compliance, but it would be load shedding for performance.
So priority and quality of service tuning in relation to the load.
Like you see, like these look like similar feature. I want to make a query not execute either for security reason or for performance reason.
Okay.
And maybe from a user, from an IP, from a connection that we use.
Okay, this is a firewalling at the end, if you want. Well, at least filtering, let's say.
Smart filtering.
Smart
I want
filtering.
this to happen all the time. I want this to happen when I'm overloaded.
Okay, so conditional on the kind of traffic that you have.
Automation can change that.
Okay.
Outside automation, okay, too much CPU is used.
Right.
Every low priority query, whichever that be.
Okay.
Fail there.
Do you see, sorry, this is interesting because do you see that on the, I'm not joking.
No, go ahead.
No, but this is, do you see that as a core feature of the MySQL D? Because what I'm thinking is that if I'm starting to get overload, also my capacity to analyze the traffic get compromised, right? Because the CPU got utilized, so the cycle that I have are less. So do you see that inside the process, the MySQL D process, or do you see that as an external eventual tooling that will interact with the MySQL server?
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Put this at the edge.
Yeah.
There are many proxy SQL that go to the same
Yeah.
MySQL, so synchronizing this is hard. We're running V-test. Like right now, we're building something in V-test for that. But every time, like we're basically pulling our errors on this and saying, like, we wish MySQL was doing that.
Okay. Okay. So
MySQL knows more about what queries are executed.
yeah. Internally, because that of course is okay. Thank you very much.
On that note, do you mind if we can connect after just to continue this discussion? Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much. Any other questions or requests related to security or the challenges that you're facing with security these days?
I'd like to try to make sure that whatever solutions you come up with don't necessarily bog down the mainstream solution. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely one of the principles. I mentioned this, that we do not want to separate ourselves too far from the community version. And that implies that we do not want to, implement something that is radically different, because then the transition would basically be too difficult to do. So think of that in terms of plugins rather than core changes, if that answers the question. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Just by the way, there you go.
Hey, so one of the things with the blended user environment, so kind of I guess when it comes to regulation compliance for data masking and all of that stuff, we'll could have users in the U.S., but then that client also has users in Canada, England, and Germany or something like that. So trying to figure out some good ways that we can let users kind of have that information there.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, depending on the user, the level of obfuscation would be different. Okay, okay. Interesting, very interesting. Mm-hmm. Any comments, Marco, from you?
No, not really. I was just thinking how to, because this means integrated, for instance, GDPR, if you are in Europe or something else, which is quite interesting and challenging at the same time, but because
you have to actually store that data over there versus store it in your local centers.
Right. Yeah, obfuscating at the moment is a little bit silly the way that it's done, right? In MySQL, that is one of the areas of improvement that we have already identified. So, okay. Thank you.
Just maybe one general note. As I mentioned earlier, I do not want this discussion to end right here during this session. There's going to be some hints at the end how to contact us in the best possible way. If you are a bit too shy to ask the question right now, don't worry, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to do that throughout this week and afterwards as well. All right. So that was the box of security.
Who is on DBA chat? Right. Okay. Good.
40%, more or less. Marco, this is your slide. This is your slide related to performance. So take it away.
Well, let me see what I brought. Okay, modularity. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. About you say I'm not used to talk behind the podium, right? So I'm used to walk around. So. This is about performance. Actually, it's more about scalability. Some of you had already raised the point that you use Vitess or some kind of sharding model or approach, right? So can you refresh who is using Vitess, for instance? All you guys.
Okay,
fantastic.
25%.
Yeah,
more or less.
it's okay. That's exactly the point, right? We have reached a point where the data dimension in terms of amount of data is such that we cannot rely anymore in an efficient scaling up because it's too expensive. It doesn't fit well our model. And then we are now looking for scaling that by separating the data in shards. So we are working on that. We are going to implement some solutions. And my, let's say, question right now is, for you that use Vitess, what is the most, the thing that keep you awake in the night of using it? What is the most disturbing thing that you see every day or, very frequently? Please. Sorry.
Come to my talk. I'll rant enough about it.
Yeah, give us something right now. Come on, I will come to your talk, but okay, I will. Anybody want to share that? No. Okay, everything is fantastic and everything works fine. I will call you out when we will.
The worst thing about VTES is upgrades.
That's okay. Okay, upgrades of the core VTES or upgrades of the mass. Yeah. Okay, but upgrade of the VTES core or upgrade of the MySQL versioning?
VTES, like
The release of VTES itself.
three versions a year. It's supported only for a year. A business cannot do 3 upgrades, and they only allow N+1 compatibility. Like, something like that.
Okay, so your problem is quite clear.
What time is your session tomorrow?
After lunch tomorrow.
After lunch tomorrow. So anyone who is interested in learning a bit more about the pains of VTES,
Needs
please,
to go to-
please.
Right.
But there's also a lot of things that still need.
Okay. My other question is why you didn't do a different kind of sharding? Why you, for instance, didn't approach application sharding, or why you didn't use ProxySQL for sharding? I know it's simple. I know it's very basic stuff, but using, for instance, but why that was not used? Come on.
Application level sharding is a nightmare. Right? So I work at Shopify.
Yeah.
We have the bulk of our data sharded by the application itself, and it means that we have to write a lot of custom code to move data around and reshard and manage all of that. And the idea of re-implementing that for other services that need to shard was just a non-starter for us.
Okay.
Too much complexity. So the fact that we could use the test to do that made a lot of sense. But of course, we've run into query compatibility issues. We've run into interesting performance implications. Avoiding scatter-gather queries. Ruby, active record, Rails integration issues with the tests. So the whole thing, it's a big shift.
Okay. How often do you reshard? Because constantly.
We're constantly moving shops between shards.
Okay. So that was the solution at the end that was chosen. Okay. Yes.
So on the other hand, in QuickBooks, we use ProxySQL for sharding.
Oh, you use ProxySQL for sharding.
Sharding is simple, and it was a compatible application on all language, but resharding is the pain.
Yes, it's all manual because you cannot. I mean, you need to do all the migration by yourself, right?
It's actually too painful to a point that we're trying to push forward the dev team to implement sharding on the application side.
Okay.
So, like hopefully the new feature can save us with doing.
What if you have a tool that does that to you that works with so that is able to migrate, the data and then update ProxySQL in a way that it sees the new shard after that have done all the migration?
We haven't had that tool set.
Okay, but what if it exists?
What if it exists? That would be awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Stupid question. Are you alluding to Percona is considering basically creating a Vitesse competitor?
No.
That's what it sounds like.
No. I am just saying that we are looking very seriously in how to help our all of you and have a manageable and way to do scalability through sharding. So what we are trying to identify is where we have to be, where our effort has to be, and this is. But I'm not saying that we are going to write.
You're looking into where investing, and you're polling us to know where you should, put your time, your resources.
We have
Exactly. That's the purpose of this session.
Yeah.
The
Well-
reason I asked is because I think there's been a ton of investment in sharding capabilities on the Vitesse side.
Yes.
And outside of even sharding, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I reminded people at Shopify that Vitesse isn't just about sharding. It's like a whole architectural shift, right? So if y'all are considering investing heavily in similar things, it's really interesting because it's a whole shift, right?
Yeah, and this is exactly the difference between Vitesse and proxy square sharding. Proxy square sharding is something that it doesn't give you a whole framework. Yeah, it's just simple solution that redirect the traffic based on a lot of work that you have to do outside, right? And Vitesse is a full layer that is there, and this is where we are interested in discovering what are the differences, what is exactly fitting well where, and then being laser focused on what we have to implement.
Sharding is probably a full 50-minute talk about the advantage and convenience of application, middleware, proxy SQL sharding.
I know.
It really is a huge subject with, you can have a very naive approach to sharding, but you just end up painting yourself in a corner if your approach is too naive.
Yeah, and the problem is that you can be naive using the too complex solution, right? You can choose the too simple one and find that it doesn't work exactly as you expect, or too complex and unmanageable. It becomes unmanageable for you. And this is exactly the point for us as well, right? Try to identify what are the limits, what are the level that we can use to define the different level of solutions. Sorry.
Let's move on. This is as you say, this is a very complex topic. We do not have enough time during this session to follow up on, but we'll definitely catch with you later.
Okay, go on.
You can stand by the microphone, just for the future. I will stand here.
No, I won't. Yeah, okay.
Okay. The third box is availability. So as you can see, there's a bit more here that we are looking at right now. The first section is related to the binary logs. We are working on the point-in-time recovery operator-based solution, which I'm going to mention in a bit in a sec. So for that reason, we are building a binary log streaming mechanism right now. It's a work in progress. Somewhere further on this path, we might be building the binary log server as a complete solution. It is right now at this stage considered a potential next step on this path. But just FYI that this is the direction which we are exploring and investing into. From the XtraBackup perspective, just to maybe sum it up, there are tons of different investments, and I just kind of pulled a few of those on the screen. None of them are essentially a revolution, but they all work towards reducing the resource consumption, improving performance of the solution, improving the way how XtraBackup works with the business applications, like in the case of the first bullet point here, like reducing the locking time. If you're interested in learning a bit more, please catch me after the session. I have my notes with me, so we can dive into this a bit further. And then from the group replication perspective, we are currently at the stage of a research of improving the performance of the solution. So again, more announcements are going to be coming later as we are closer to nailing down the actual solution for that. Any questions or comments related to availability? Please go on.
I'm curious if maybe this isn't the right section for this kind of conversation, but like to me, one of the first things I think about with availability is also like what Percona Server could do to help smooth some of the rough edges in the current MySQL 8.0 release model. Because one of the things that we've experienced trouble with is that big changes can land in a point release currently
Mm-hmm.
in 8.0. And I know there's a new release model kind of
Yes.
coming,
Yes.
but like for now, like it has bit us hard.
We
It's made it to where like our upgrade to MySQL 8.0 is still really far away.
So what version are you on right now, if I may ask?
A version of 5.7.
5.7. Okay.
So we
Okay.
only released a very limited amount of infrastructure on 8.0 because of the instability we've seen. So like we have maybe tens of instances on 8.0 currently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're being very conservative with rolling it out further because of how unstable it can be.
Okay. Yeah. So to the large extent, the new release cadence that has been announced by Oracle like a month and a half ago is going to hopefully help with this. We do have, well, we do need to keep in line with the cadence. This is one of our principles. We want to be, again, a kind of drop-in replacement. If you are on 8.0.36, you go with 8.0.36 from Percona, and it works, like a charm out of the box. So we cannot really kind of break this bond.
I
but
don't mind the release cadence
Yeah.
being the same. What I mean is like, is there a chance for Percona Server to help like smooth some of those edges though? Like in the case where there's like some kind of bug that's introduced, a regression of some kind.
Okay, I have an answer a bit later to this. It's a small improvement, but it might actually be, working for you really well.
There's a full talk from Percona about 8.0 upgrades. But while we're bringing like this subject, like 5.7, like upgrading, it was easy to roll back with binary in place. 8.0, it's not. And one thing that Oracle isn't officially supporting is replicating from 8.0.30 to 8.0.28 as an example. So replicating from the new version to the old version. Like it works, but it's not officially supported. Everyone uses it for their rollback scenario.
Are you talking about asynchronous replication?
Yes.
I don't think sorry, that, but that sounds new to me. I mean, I think it's supported. I think it's supported. No,
It was never supported.
it was.
It was never supported. We always use it from newer to lower.
Yeah, but you can have the repeat the.
It works. It may work later on,
Well,
but it was never optional.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. I don't want to contradict. I just want to go through the manual and see where it's not, right? Because
I don't know of any claim that we don't support this. So I don't know where you got your information from. So from 8 to 5.7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my mistake.
Topic for a follow-up.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else on the topic of availability? All right, let's move on. We have a few boxes more to cover. So there was a question about the ARM packages. We have a tech preview for the MySQL Server already. It's just a server. We will probably wait a little bit for the feedback related to it before we translate the other modules. So may I ask the question, what is kind of the story behind your question?
Just like if I want to run MySQL on ARM server, I have to use them too, and I have to use MySQL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To use Percona. Yeah. You're talking about the production environment or development environment in this case?
Well, sooner or later, ARM visualizes so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, the data for tomorrow will become a production server for smaller applications.
Okay. The reason why we are investing in this, there are actually two reasons. First, we see the rise of the ARM-based architectures. AWS is working on this for many years right now, promoting the Graviton. So this is all kind of in line with this. But also, which is actually quite interesting, is that some of our customers and users came back to us and said, we have a different development environment or staging environment based solely on the Mac computers with M1 chips. And we want to have the same scripts, we want to have the same deployments, we want to have the same packages, the same software on the Mac machine, on developer machines, and then in production. So they do not want to have any changes with that. tech preview that is in place. We have this multi-architecture Docker images already. If you're interested, I can send you the link to this. And with the next version, this is actually going to become a generally available solution. Please. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, lovely. The second bullet point here is about the operating systems. We do have like a support for Ubuntu, Debian, and Red Hat, and all the derivatives. In fact, we actually did a bit of a cleanup of our statements recently related to the Red Hat derivatives. So the Rocky Linux, Oracle Linux, Alma Linux, all of that. We do not plan to expand this family of 3 to add another new member, large member to this. But then again, what do you need? Are there any Linux distributions or architectures that are on your radar or are missing besides those mentioned here? No? Lovely.
Alpine? Question mark?
Alpine Linux is covered as well.
Okay.
Yep. The day 0 to day 1 operations. It's not necessarily written in the order of importance here, but I mentioned earlier that the optimization of the deployment process, this time to value for people who are exploring MySQL with Percona or just for the users who want to get started right away. This is a very important topic. We'll be investing this kind of throughout the life cycle of MySQL from Percona, all the way from the web pages to the packages, and etc. So that is one thing that you will see a lot of movement on. The second topic is MySQL 5.7 end of life. And it kind of resonates with what I have heard already. There are many, actually, there's probably like 50-50 of the instances that we see right now on 5.7 and everything else. And that means that many customers, many users, for one reason or another, got stuck there. So we have prepared a program that extends the life of 5.7 for up to 3 more years, during which we will be fixing and basically backporting the CVE fixes and bug fixes to 5.7. It's an additional paid offer. You can read all about it on our pages. No new features, of course, but if you are in this situation where you need to have 5.7 for a bit longer, we are there to help as well. Please.
Does that mean that CVEs and bug fixes are only available to paid support customers?
If you are brave enough to compile and test everything, we are an open source company, so you can do this, but the binaries will be provided for the paying customers. It's an addition to the support contract, basically, the way how it's offered. Binaries are not publicly available, yeah. We did.
The open source, the code is open. You can compile. I mean, yeah. No, this is the concept, right? The open source. We are not going to hide the code at all. The code is there. You can take it, download it, and compile. And we all dogs know that compiling MySQL is also difficult.
Oh my God, we're running out of time. One more thing on the list here is the adjustment to the new release cadence that is just been recently announced. Anything else? I'm just looking at the clock. We'll probably just push it to after the session. Just let me go through the slides really quickly. When it comes to the access and configurability of the end users of the databases, we currently do not plan any investments in this area, but then again, if you have anything in mind that addresses the needs of developers, please let me know. Of course, there's actually a supplementary question here. I'm looking at Sveta. We have she is an expert on Percona Toolkit within Percona. If you want to talk to us about Percona Toolkit, just, please let us know. We'll be delighted to talk about any needs that you might have related to this package. Okay. control and monitoring. So first and the most important thing is the Percona DBus, just making sure that the tedious tasks of DB management is reduced to the minimum, single-click operations. All of that is going to be announced pretty soon. A very exciting time for Percona and the users. An interesting topic, which I would really like to follow up with you during our one-on-one discussions afterwards, is we are missing a lot of telemetry right now when it comes to the usage of our tools. Because we are open source, we probably have in the range of 1% of the users of our solution that are paying us, and those that we can identify and know exactly what they are doing. Remaining 99%, I'm talking about the kind of level of magnitude, are those who are users and we know nothing about them. We don't know how to potentially help them. So one of the tricky discussions that we have to do right now is to figure out how to get some form of data, some form of measurements from these all of these instances without upsetting the community, without breaking the kind of rules of engagement, without making anyone uncomfortable with just using Percona. So if you have any, observations, questions, or concerns about it, please talk to me. I will be delighted to follow up on this topic.
When you do a user, I would subscribe to a Percona user mailing list, they guarantee no commercial spam on it.
What do you mean by commercial spam?
Don't try to sell me something. Just give me minimal updates.
Okay.
Max once a month, and then I would be happy to be on that mailing list. So if you want visibility to your user, you could maybe have a mailing.
Okay.
But don't spam.
Yeah, let's take it offline. The other topic here are the investments in the PMM advisors. For those who are not aware what it is, it's a type of a feature within the Percona monitoring and management tool that gives you hints about your environment and helps you identify the problems early on. We have built the first one, which is the MySQL end of life warning for those who maybe didn't notice that it's becoming end of life soon. And there's also one thing that someone was asking about the cadence of the rollouts, or actually rollbacks in this case. So this is at the moment, it's in the kind of research stage. We know because of the code analysis that we do with every release that some of the pairs or triples of the minor releases are actually compatible for the rollbacks. And we can help you identify this. So in case you're worried what will happen if I upgrade to a specific minor version and you want to have this way back, we may be able to help you identify the back steps options for that as well. Anything else? Let's take it offline just for the sake of time. Automation. This is all based on operators at the moment. So actually two things. The second one I have mentioned already, point-in-time recovery based on the log streaming. The other very interesting and very important thing is that we're going to provide you with the options how you want to run your replication. 3 ways of doing that will be provided quite soon. So again, looking forward to your comments. And if you have any other requests for automation, please let us know. So that is it. I'm afraid I have run a little bit out of time right now. If you have any other questions, there are actually 2 ways of doing that. You can scan the Slido QR code and just type them in. And after Percona Live, I will do my best to answer them all on the community forum. You can also catch me and Marco and other Perconians here during the session. If you want to have my business card, I have a full stash of them, so that it will make it a little bit easier for you to contact me back. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to talking to you more during Percona Live this week, and afterwards video sessions. I'm just all yours.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.